Good morning everyone, Rach here from Book Piles. Welcome to my July reads. First of all, it is very cold, so I have added an extra layer. Hopefully it won't get in the way too much. It's a wrap. Secondly, welcome to new subscribers and g'day to those returning. I hope everyone's had a good week reading. I had a good month reading. I should have brought my, have I got it? Try and do something without knocking the camera. No, I took it out. No, it's here. I read every single day in July. Hopefully you can see on my list there. Every single line. So it's this last full line here. So I don't think I've done that in a very long time. And I did feel like it showed, like I read a little bit too much for me. So that reading every day culminated in 14 books, which I think was an even split of 7 on the Kindle and 7 physical books. So I had to make notes. I'm trying to be very good and talk a bit more coherently about the things I read, because if you ever watched any of my earlier videos, I was never great at reviewing books, and I'm probably never going to be great at reviewing books because I don't know, views are subjective, you know, we all like books for different reasons. So I will do my best to give you a snapshot of the book and what I thought and what I rated it, and let's get through 14 books. Okay, so the first book I read was on the Kindle, so I will put all the Kindle images in this space here. I'm going to stick my hands in my pockets. I will just say, for people scratching their head why I'm cold, in New Zealand we do not generally, 90% of the time, build our homes with central heating. So we only heat certain rooms at certain times of the day. So my library doesn't have a heater in it. It relies on residual heat from other rooms and the sun when the sun is out. But for the library, the sun doesn't get in here until the end of the day anyway. But I have to film at the time I'm filming because it's the only quiet time in the house. And I think I've mentioned before, all the noise in the house comes from the other side of this room, and this house was never built with soundproofing. So it is what it is, and hopefully there won't be condensation coming out of my mouth as I'm talking. Anyway, right, let's get back on track. Book 1. So I read book 1 because, for my Flow On challenge, and I had to read a book with the same initials as the author of the June book. In June I read a B.K. Borison book, so I needed a BB. So the first thing that I did was look through my catalogue and see if I had anything before I then looked at probably the library. But luckily I did have a short on my Kindle called Watching His Wife, and it is pretty much what you think it is. It was I hope I didn't pay for it. I hope I got it in a Stuff Your Kindle event. I gave it 2 stars. Basically, it's a short story. They go to a couples retreat where, what does it say? A marriage in crisis couples retreat. And the solution to their marriage in crisis, according to the experts, is for her to sleep with somebody else and for him to basically watch. And that's basically what the book was. So it was just a anyway, it crossed off the Flow On challenge. I was not needing to buy anything else or go to the library, so it was done. And luckily the prompt for August is not the same trope as the book before. It was to read a different genre, which you will have seen in the video last week. Anyway, so it was a short read. I got it over with in the space of an hour, and that was ticked off. The next book I read was also on my Kindle, and it was called Assisting the Billionaire by Willa Renfro, and it was also another short. And I read this for the A to Z challenge. I needed an A. And this was slightly better. I gave it 3 stars. Basically, he's a grumpy billionaire, and she is his latest assistant who does not put up with his crap. She also has a fear of flying, which she has not told him, and he has asked stroke demanded that she accompany him on an overseas trip. On said overseas trip, on the plane, they have an argument and they end up in the Mile High Club, because that's obviously how you deal with arguments in romance novels. So it was a middle of the road okay read. I liked that she didn't crumble under his grumpiness and she stood up to it, and he obviously liked that she stood up to it. So it was fine. I don't know if it was part of a series. It wasn't interesting enough for me to discover any of that. However, the next book, the third book I read, also on my Kindle, and also I think for A to Z. Sure, I needed this for A to Z. This was Enemies with Benefits by Roxy Noir, and it's the first book of 5 in the Loveless Brothers series. So this is an enemies to lovers / workplace romance, and I really like this. I think I gave it 4 stars. So basically, they were enemies / rivals at school, all through school, and then he left their small town and she stayed behind to care for a parent, and she's okay with the decision that she's made. They reconnect on a night where she is on an unfortunate date where the date ditches her, and she then discovers she did not put her wallet in her purse. So she has to work off the bill, and it's during this time that she runs into him, and he's the chef. So they butt heads, they encounter each other a couple more times, and then he turns up at her workplace as the new executive chef. The boss of that business, it's like a summertime competition or something like that between all the workers, and basically he's put on the line a larger bonus than normal, or something along those lines, a larger prize than normal, and basically everybody's competing against each other to win this money amount, and so initially our hero and heroine are fighting each other as well as everybody else to win the prize, but then they realise there is a third person, otherwise known as a villain, but it's not, like it's just a romance villain, not a dark romance or anything like that. And they realise that they would have a better chance of winning if they team up together. Oh, voice. Excuse me. They would have a better chance of winning if they teamed up together and competed against this villain than if they stayed separate. So they call a truce, they work together in the working situation, and then the truce kind of spills over into a truce with benefits, and then obviously the romance goes on from there. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I have read Roxy Noir before. It's not a name that rings a bell other than I'm aware of it. So I don't know if I've written it down in my check these out lists. But I really liked it. I liked that the enemies to lovers lasted a decent amount into the book. Some of these enemies to lovers, they they end at like 20% of the book, and I'm like, no, give me more. This gave me more. I like the banter between the lead couple. I like the banter between him and his brothers, who are all the subjects of the next books in the series. And as I said, I gave it 4 stars, and I immediately went and brought the other 4 books in the series. When I will read them, I do not know. I don't even remember what the titles are to see if they'll fit into anything for her kid. I should probably look that out, editing Rachel. Okay, flipping over the page of my book here. Is this only one page? Number 4. Okay, number 4 is still on the Kindle. And this was, I believe this is the first book I read for her kid, actually. So this is Billion Dollar Fiance by Olivia Hale. And it was the first book in the Seattle Billionaire, no, sorry, the 4th book in the Seattle Billionaires series, which was to finish that series. And it's basically a childhood friends to lovers fake dating trope situation. So again, she's a chef, and he is a billionaire businessman, and they run into each other again after an absence, where she has spilt a pot of tomato sauce down the front of his white shirt. And then that's when they realise that they actually know each other. So it turns out that in order to woo a business contact, he needs to pretend he has a fiance. I can't remember now if he actually says, I have a fiance, or not, but it must be, because that's why the book is called Fiance, Billion Dollar Fiance. Anyway, he needs to find a fiance fast, and because he's just run into her, he asks her if she will fill this role for him. And I can't remember what she gets out of it initially. I don't know. It was the 4th book of 14 I read. So anyway, they go through these various scenarios where they have to act like they are an engaged couple, including, is this got a one-bed situation? I can't remember. A lot of these fake dating books that I've read this month have had a one-bed situation. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked how their relationship slowly evolved as they remembered what they used to do as childhood friends, and admitting that they had crushes on each other, and all of that sort of thing. And it all went really well until the 3rd act breakup, where one of them does something. Basically, one of them lets the other one down quite badly. And then it's just how that person makes it back up to the other. So it was a really enjoyable book. I read it, what have I said here? It's a 4-star read, and that Olivia Hale is fast becoming a favourite author, as you will discover. Okay, the first physical book of the month was Ali Hazelwood's Not in Love, and I read this because I was aware and researched that you should read Not in Love before you read Problematic Summer Romance. So I read this. I really like this, and when I wrote my notes, I queried had I read Ali Hazelwood before, and looking, actually I was doing some stuff in my archive, and I found that I had read probably one of those short Amazon series, 6-book series with all those romance authors. I did read an Ali Hazelwood. I don't remember anything about it, but I did. But this is the first full-length Ali Hazelwood that I have read. Gymnastics. I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. I liked that he picked up immediately that he had to operate differently with her. And I'm not going to say what the situation is with her, primarily because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't think I wrote it down. What I wrote down was him recognizing that he had to operate differently. I loved that how he fell first, and he just kept at it without being a pain in the rear end, trying to win her love. And then the difficult situation that they were in, where his company was trying to buy out the company she works for. So I went into this, I read this really quickly. I really enjoyed it. And I discovered, did I discover this before I moved on to the next book or after? I'm not sure. But I discovered, and you can correct me if you know more than me, because I don't know enough about Ali Hazelwood yet. I do have 2 more Ali Hazelwoods on my shelf. From what I discovered, I'm going to say that word a lot, it appears she doesn't often write dual POV, which this is a dual POV, and that's one of the reasons I think that I really liked it. Because, so we'll finish this, 5-star read, loved it. Went on to this, 3-star read, meh, because it's not dual POV. So that's, like I said, I don't know if I was aware that she doesn't normally do dual POV when I read Not in Love, or I just, whatever, I'm going to go around in circles, so we'll stop that. So I read Problematic Summer Romance, just in case you want to see the title first, and then I'll hold it, for her kid, because it is set in the Mediterranean, primarily. And this is the business partner of the hero of Not in Love and the sister of the hero Not in Love. And while I liked the story and I liked seeing the Not in Love couple in this book, I really struggled with the romance because we never got his side, or his feelings, his thoughts. So this is a age gap, grumpy sunshine story where he is 15 years older than her, and according to this, he has fought his attraction to her for all the time that he's known her. You know, it's not appropriate, he's that much older, she's his business partner's sister, blah blah blah. Whereas she has been boldly trying to gain his attention, his love, I guess, throughout. I did like that we got dual timelines in this, so we got what kind of brought them together a period of time beforehand. So sprinkled throughout the present timeline was what was happening those many years ago. But yeah, it just fell flat for me because I didn't see him struggle with his attraction and working through how he would justify going for it, because it just basically went from grumpy man to doing it ish. And I just, yeah, it just didn't work for me. I wanted it to be a dual POV. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm pleased I read the book before, so that I knew some of the people that were at this. This is basically set at the wedding of the couple of the book before. I hope that's not really a spoiler, it's what's on the back. So it's read, it crossed off a Her Kid prompt. Not my favourite. Then the next book I read was back on the Kindle. Another Olivia Hale short series, a 3-book series, and it is Best Enemies Forever. So it's book 1 of the Conovan Chronicles. So I don't believe I read this for any other reason other than I was deflated after reading Problematic Summer Romance because it didn't give me everything I wanted from it. So I turned to this because it was I knew it as an enemies to lovers, which is my favourite trope. And I think my next favourite trope is drunken Vegas wedding. So basically, our couple in this book are from rival families, and they are at the same conference in Las Vegas, and they start drinking together as they banter with each other, and somehow or another, during the course of this drunken time, they end up getting married, and they don't realize it until the next morning when they wake up in the same hotel room. So I loved watching them struggle with what they'd done, how they were going to keep it secret, but obviously it doesn't stay secret. So then how they have to pretend to be married in front of everybody else, but then still hate each other behind the scenes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Just the banter between them, 1 minute and then suddenly someone's there and they have to be nice to each other and hold hands and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a really good palate cleanse. I gave it 4 stars. Now we move on to the next physical book, again read for her kid. I can't remember what prompt it was read for. I don't think I've written it down. Okay, my immediate thought when I finished this book was, I will never read this book again for the first time. And I don't think I've ever read a book where I've thought that. I need to stop. Okay, well that was interesting. Normally my camera shuts off. I just saw the time on the screen, and my camera normally just decides it's not going to record anything, but it actually was going okay. So you will have the I need to turn off, and now we're back again. So we are talking about Mile High, Liz Tom Ford. This is book 1 of the Windy City series, and I'm probably the last person on earth to start the series. That doesn't matter to me, to be perfectly honest. So this is for me, a 5-star plus book. I really loved how it played out. I should have looked at my notes while I had the camera turned off. So basically what you've got is, he is a hockey star and she is the flight attendant on the team plane, and there is a no fraternization rule between the staff and the players, coaching, that sort of thing. She also just doesn't take any bullshit, and he's a bit of a smart ass, and he tries to rile her up and she just doesn't fall for it. So that obviously piques his interest. I really enjoyed how every time he encountered her, and I can't remember if it's necessarily on purpose now. This was book 8 of 14. But he started coining a phrase, "Are you following me?" Or "Are you following me?" Without the R at the front. And I'm sure she used it at some point further in the book. So it just basically, their love story about how he became protected of her because of what his status was, how she was trying to just stand up for herself and get on with her life, after perhaps not being treated so well by previous partners, and not in a bad way, just, like they just didn't appreciate her and that sort of thing. And then meeting the team that we would meet, that are going to be part of the series. The series does not follow all the players on the same team. So the next book is actually her brother, who is on a different sports team. And then there is a third sports team for the third book. I don't remember what fourth book is yet. I will discover that in due course. I just really, really enjoyed this book, and cannot wait to read more. And as you'll know if you watched the last video, I've got book 2 to read in August. So that is a 5-star plus read. What did I read next? I read Role Model by Rachel Reed, which is book 5. Yes, I think that's right. Book 6 is somewhere. Where is book 6? I don't know. It's somewhere. Because I was reading every day, and I don't know if I had realised this then. I can't remember when I realised I had read every day, and I wanted to see if I could do it for the whole month. So I literally, the day after I finished Mile High, I started this, and I think that did not help this book. I probably needed to have a couple of days to wallow in Mile High and just enjoy the buzz of reading this book that I really loved before I started something else. So I do not think I gave this book justice. And it's interesting, when I was looking to get my thoughts on paper and my notes, and I tend to not read reviews before I've read the book. I read them afterwards to see if I agree with what's been written. So it was interesting to see that for a lot of people, after Heated Rivalry, this was the most popular book in the series, whereas for me it was just a meh. But I think that suffered because I was in a Mile High bubble. So anyway, this is the hockey player of this has moved to a different team from the one he was on in previous books, and it's a team further down the rankings, and then the love interest is the social media manager for the team, who, apart from everything else, has to try and improve this guy's image, because and I feel like there should be a little bit of a trigger warning. I don't know if there actually is, and I'm probably not going to waste time checking. I don't think there is. The hockey player, the guy who had been his best friend for however many seasons, turned out to be a bit of a ratbag. And so there is a bit of talk around SA. And I feel like that people should go into it knowing, if you are triggered by talk around that. There's nothing on the page, obviously, and it's only in reference to the friend. But our hockey player here was supposedly his best friend. So this friend, who was a nasty piece of work, was also very homophobic. So I think that's the other thing I really struggled with, is how a hockey player hero went from having this guy as a friend, and going along stroke condoning some of his homophobic behaviour, and then coming out as gay. So I don't know. The book was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. Did I write down what stars I gave it? I don't know now. That's interesting. I probably gave it 3 stars. Yeah, I did write it down. There was a little bit of a lift in my view of the book through a particular scene on the plane, and that's all I'll say, because I try not to spoil anything. That kind of perked me up a little bit more, but otherwise it was just a middle of the road for me, and potentially it suffered having followed on from Mile High. And what I will say too, and I think I've already said this in another video, I actually don't intend to read the last book that's out currently. I think it's called The Long Game. I don't know where I've put it, because I don't see it. Oh, it's the green. Okay. It's in that pile there. The Long Game revisits Shane and Ilya from Heated Rivalry, and I also believe the book that's coming out next year revisits them again as well. So I've decided that I'm now going to wait until the 7th book is out. I will then reread Heated Rivalry, read The Long Game, and read the last book pretty much back to back. Because one thing I have found, I'll try and remember to say it when I get to the book. Rachel try and remember. Okay, so after Role Model, I read You with a View because I realised in researching for A to Z I needed a U, and I was looking at what books I could buy for you when I had a book on my bookshelf. So that's why I read You with a View. I was aware of this as people were billing it as a decent enemies to lovers. Ish. Probably for me, I would have liked it a bit more enemies to lovers, but it was okay. What did I write down for stars? Did I go over the page? I gave it 4 stars, and the reason I gave it wasn't a 5-star read is because it's only a single POV again. I wanted to be in his head as well. This was a really touching story, actually. Our heroine, Noelle, this is about the first time I thought maybe I should write down the people's names. Noelle was very close to her grandmother who has passed away. So there's a bit of grief stuff as well, if that's something that bothers you too. And in her grandmother's possessions, she finds a series of photographs and a letter written by a guy called Paul, who was not her grandfather. And so as part of her grief, the other thing that she had with her grandmother, I think this is why. What was that beep? Brakes outside. Blimey, I was like, what's going to happen in the house? She and her grandmother had this thing where they shared a secret with each other. And so when Noelle found these photos in the letter, she's like, why did she never tell me about this secret? So she wanted to find out more. So she puts a post on social media that goes viral. The grandson of Paul makes contact with her and puts her in touch with Paul. The grandson turns out to be her high school enemy. So we've got this enemies to lovers between Noelle and Theo, I think his name is. Then we've got the really touching relationship between Noelle and Paul, who is more than happy to share his relationship and story with her grandmother. And it culminates with them recreating a road trip that was planned, her grandmother planned with Paul. So they decide to go. She says to Paul, can I go on this road trip? Because I think that she was only going to do it. He says, I'd like to come with you. They also, Paul and Noelle, share a love of photography. And then I can't remember how it happens, but Theo obviously ends up on the road trip as well. So I really enjoyed it, and it probably, if we had had Theo's POV, it would have been a 5-star read for me. But I just like getting in the guy's head as well to understand the way that they're feeling. So yeah, good. Could have been better. Okay, what did we read next? Okay, the next book we read was back on the Kindle. It was book 2 of the Connivin Chronicles. I'm feeling like now I have pretty much read, this is the book we're about to talk about is book 11, and it, by now I think I had covered all the things that I wanted to cover in my July TBR. So pretty much this was all now mood reading. So book 11 is The Perfect Mistake by Olivia Hale, book 2 of the Connivin Chronicles, and another 4-star read for me. So this is the hero is the brother of the heroine of book one, who was half of the drunken Vegas wedding couple, and the heroine in book two is the friend of said heroine in book one. And I did not follow my rules and write the couple's name down again. I must get better at that. So she, because she is a ballerina, and she has encountered, got a workplace injury, if you like, and so the company, don't they call it the principal or something like that, basically says they're going to have to let her go because she can't dance to the standard she needs to. She's devastated. She knows basically now her career is over, because by the time she heals, she probably will not get back into a company at the level she was at when she was injured. She also lives in a company-sponsored apartment, which means that now that she's not part of the company, she can't live in the apartment. So Connie from book one says, I'll help you out. So she turns to her brother, and what's his name? I don't remember. I didn't write it down, and it's on the Kindle, so I can't look. He is a grumpy man. He is the CEO of the family business. He is also a widower, and he has two young daughters. Both daughters? I don't know. So he basically keeps firing, or his nannies walk out on him, either or. He basically churns through nannies at a rate of knots. So Connie, his sister, and the heroine's best friend says, I have this friend who needs somewhere to stay and she can look after the kids for you. So he agrees to this as a temporary measure to tide him over while he finds a proper nanny. Obviously, the kids are enamored with her because she's fun. I think one of his daughters wants to learn ballet, and the ballet school that she was just fired from will not take anybody in outside of their regular intake sessions. So he's grumpy about that because basically he can get anything he wants, but he can't get this. So having her as a ballerina and a nanny means that she can also scratch this itch that the daughter has, because he's convinced it's a 5-second wonder anyway. So it was all right. I mean, I gave it a 5-star. No, sorry, I didn't. I gave it 4 stars. You know, he's the grumpy one. He's older than her. She's cheerful and fun, and the kids love her. And it's just was nice to watch how her brightness mellowed him somewhat into a little bit more of a fun-loving guy. I liked he stood up for her when she was being bad-mouthed by someone in his family. And yeah, it was just a nice, enjoyable read as part of the series. Book 12 was, I was looking at the challenges that I have, and I realised that my sister had a book that would fit a prompt, so I borrowed it from her and read it. Again, I think this book suffered because I was reading every day and not having a gap between books, because I wanted to keep my streak and see if I could read a book every day in July. So I don't think I gave this book the due justice it should have perhaps had, or it was never going to be a well book for me. I gave it 3 stars and it was just okay. I enjoyed how it was written, although at the beginning there was a bit that I just didn't make sense for a long time, and it took a long time for us to discover what it was, and then I was like, oh, okay. But really, I didn't care. I didn't care about the two suitors, which one she would choose. I didn't care about the kid that she wrote to. It just was, I've read it, basically. And I don't know if it's just, I've just read too much this book, I read it because I needed a book that won a prize. This book won the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I gave it 3 stars. So either I don't read very well, or again, it's hit and miss. You're going to get on with some books and not others. Would I have liked it better if I was in a different frame of mind? I really can't tell you, because I've read it now and it's like, meh. I do think that at the stage of life I'm in at the moment, I do just prefer, for the most part, I feel like we're going to have book falling over problems. I just want the light and fluffy that a romance gives. It doesn't require brain power to think about. It just is enjoyable in the moment, and then I can move on. So I don't know if something like The Correspondent has suffered because it fell in this period of time I'm in. I don't know. I don't foresee me reading it again. I'll give it back to my sister. I won't have a copy on my shelf. It is what it is. Okay, so book 13 was back on the Kindle, and it was the final book in the Olivia Hale Conovan Chronicles series called One Wrong Move. And interestingly, when I went into it, I didn't realise the location that this book was set in, because it is actually a pet peeve situation for me. So this book follows the third sibling from the hero of book 2 and the heroine of book 1. So this is Nate. Did I actually write her name down? I don't know that I did. Good job, Rachel. This is what's the troper's best friend's ex-girlfriend, along those lines. So we get a little prelogue at the beginning that basically talks about how he saw her first and he made the mistake of telling his friend, and his friend bowled up to her, and that's how they started their relationship. So fast forward a few years, he has basically pined quietly for her, been involved with them, but also been cautious about what he does, because obviously he doesn't want to reveal that he cares about her or fancies her. Then she turns up in London after the relationship ends, and he basically sees it as his moment. So he sets about wooing her, just gently, not aggressively or anything like that. He did things that he knew she would enjoy. There is a one-bed situation in this book. And I was, as I said, so this book is set in London, and one of my pet peeves, because I lived in London for many, many years, one of my pet peeves is when authors very clearly have never been to London and they put things in the wrong place. And you're going, like I've read books where they're going to the airport from a certain location and they pass something that they would not pass. It's completely in the opposite direction. And so those sorts of things throw me out of the story, because I know London quite well. So I started reading this, and she mentions a suburb, and I'm like, right, there's no suburb called that name in London. And yes, I know London's a big place, but I've lived in it long enough to know what's where. Or I lived in it long enough to know what's where. So when that happened, I I started to fall out of the story a little bit, but then they stopped sort of kind of talking about geographically through London, and I got hooked back into the story again. And interestingly enough, in her acknowledgements at the back of the book, which I don't always read as well, Olivia Hale said that she purposely called the suburb a different name because she didn't want to, because of what happened in that, or the situation in that, how it was described, get the words right, how that suburb was described. She didn't want to actually use a real suburb for it, so she made up a name for it. So once I read that in the acknowledgements, I was like, okay, I'll give you a pass on that now. No, you're okay. So yeah, so it was just really nice about how he just tried to woo her once she arrived in London, how he put his foot in it because she felt he didn't hear what she was saying, and then how he worked his way out of that. And yeah, just a nice love story to round out that 3-book series. And then the last book, I'm just going to pause. I'm really hoping that nothing has been cut off in that last clip, because I'm not going to rewatch the clip and waste the battery power again. But the previous time I had to stop, everything was fine, so I'm hoping everything is fine now. Okay, so we're on to the last book of July, and I read Just for the Cameras. And I actually think I picked this up for A to Z as well. I think I needed a J. And because I was mood reading and I was trying to read every day in July, I just went on and read this. So this is book 1 of, it only says 2 for now, of the Bay Area Players. But if you've read this book, you know that there are 3 guys who are friends, and one of the guys is the lead of book 2. So I'm assuming there has to be a book 3 for the 3rd guy, but you know, I don't know. I haven't dived in enough to see anything mentioned about it. So this is again I think it is an enemies to lovers. Yeah, it is. It starts out as an enemies to lovers, and basically a sports star has been thrown together with a zookeeper, so that his celebrity can highlight an endangered animal, and bring more awareness and bring some funding and things like that. So he has to work with her at the zoo. Oh no, it doesn't actually show. I'm not going to tell you what he has to work with. He has to work with her at the zoo to gain that media spotlight for them, basically. But obviously he doesn't hit it off. He doesn't want to be there. He's grumpy as hell. He doesn't want to be there. And she catches him before she's met him. She overhears him grumbling about it. But then obviously, you know, it's an enemies to lovers thing. Things are going to thaw out and get better between the pair of them. And it was just a nice... Sometimes when you read enemies to lovers, I'm going to put this book down for a bit. It's a bit of a chunky book to hold constantly, without it going all over the place. Sometimes when you read an enemies to lovers, I feel like how do I describe this? The cliff between the enemies to the lovers is really sharp, and it's not a gentle slide into being a lover. And I think I prefer, obviously, the gentle slide where you watch the relationship evolve, and that's what we got in this book. The mention of the 3 guys, they are all from different sports, so they must share possibly a common agent who has put them up for this thing. And so I really enjoyed the interaction between those three guys as well, which means I'm absolutely dying to read book 2, which, spoiler alert, has just arrived. And then I'm going to be sad that I've got to wait to find out if there is actually a book 3 or not. So yeah, it was just a nice gentle thawing of him. I don't know who instigated it, but because I think actually she decided to start a social media campaign as on top of what was being done, because obviously she had this famous sports star in her realm, and as part of that she actually she offered up that because he had to do her stuff at the zoo, she would do his stuff at training. So that was fun, watching how she coped with that. I felt, what are we saying? What would I put at the bottom here? Okay. Yeah, that's right. I remember now. I remember thinking, when I got to the end of this, I remember thinking the first half was better than the second half. And I think that's actually a common thread in what I read in reviews. So I felt the third act breakup, and their coming back together again, was not as sharp and as good as part 1. I still gave the book... did I write down what I don't think I wrote down what I gave it. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. But I remember coming away thinking the third act breakup and the dealing with that and everything was not as on point as the beginning of the book. Now, the thing that I was going to remember to say, I am having a potential problem in remembering which sports star is in which book and on which team. So I'm hopefully going to get the second book in this read this month, and then obviously that's it for the moment as far as that. It's either is a duology or a series, because the third book, nothing has been announced if there is going to be one. Whereas I've got this going on for a while because I'm reading it as part of Herked, and certainly until December I can only read one a month if I pull the prompt that for the given month. So speaking of Herked, this is where we are at now, and I've just used a coloured pencil to colour in the squares that are completed, and there is, I don't know if you can tell, there is a little bit of purple here. Just a reminder that I'm doing the kind of version Ain't Nobody Got Time. So for a lot of my squares I only need to read one book, and then there are only a handful of squares where I need to read more than one book. And I will also say, where did I put it? It's at the bottom of a pile, of course. As much as I only gave this 3 stars, it would actually work if you are doing Herked yourself and you haven't covered this prompt, which I think is 7, if my maths is correct. This would work for Bookception because there is a lot of talk about books, the books that she is reading, and in conversation with somebody else. They both talk about books that are being read. So for me, it's not the book I'm choosing for Bookception, but it's a backup. I've read it within the Herked time frame. It's been, because I started Herked on the 1st of July. I read it in July. If the book I've got earmarked for that prompt for Bookception does not throw me something I can read that I will want to read, there is this, because they talk about Outlander, and Outlander has been one of those books that has been on my radar of wanting to read, but concerned about the amount of violence that's in it, based on what I've read about the book. I've never watched the program, I've never read anything. But if my number one pick doesn't pan out for me, it might be the time to be reading it in this next year, because it would work. This book would work for that prompt. Okay, I am going to edit these clips together sometime in the next 24 hours and get them up for you to read. I think it's probably a long video, so yeah, sorry about that. But it won't be typically 14 books a month. I think this is the most books I've read in a month so far this year. Do drop down in the comments what your standout books of July were, especially if you read the same sort of books as I do. I'm always on the lookout for something else, because, you know, I don't have enough books. Okay, I will catch you again in another video very soon. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.